Bundjohn, aka Chicken Fillets here. Now recently I've been thinking about subjects to do videos about. You know, and usually when I do these videos there'll be some sort of gimmick behind it, you know, best Switch games, blah blah blah, XYZ. There's always got to be some little gimmick. Now this got me thinking, what about a video with no gimmicks, just awesome JRPGs, RPGs, these things that you should be playing? So for this, I have asked the Chicken Fillet Collective, well, they're not called that, they're YouTube content creators, to come on the channel to tell you just awesome RPGs and JRPGs that you should be playing. Now, I've actually opened this from JRPGs. I've actually allowed Western RPGs. Basically, if it's an RPG, it can be on this list. But before we get cracking on, if you like JRPGs, no gimmicks, and a wee Scottish guy talking about it, well, please consider subscribing to the channel. Now, first up, we have our good friend Switchboard. On to him.
Hello. That doesn't quite work when I try it. So, Mr. Chicken Fillets has kindly asked me to come on his channel and talk about RPGs that you should play. So, what is an RPG? An RPG is a role-playing game. So this actually is quite a broad question, but you know, it's quite a good question because I'm quite a big fan of RPGs, and there is a reason for this, and it's because of one series that I want to talk about. Not really one game, because it's a lot of games in the series that are really great, and to be honest, once you've played one game in the series, you've played most of them anyway. But yeah, I actually really enjoy this series, and it's one of my favourite series ever. I love this series so much, and this series is, I said series a lot of times then, Pokemon series. So I've got a whole collection of Pokemon games right here. There's so many. I've got Pokemon Red, Yellow, I'm dropping them, Pokemon Ultra Sun, Alpha Sapphire, Super Mystery Dungeon, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity, Violet, Sword, Arceus, and we don't talk about this one. I've been playing Pokemon since I was like 5 years old. I remember getting my first Pokemon game, which was Pokemon Blue. I really enjoyed it for how much it kind of opened up the idea of how fads can become this like massive thing. And obviously Pokemon, as we know it now, is one of the biggest series ever, the biggest media franchise ever. It's made so much money. There's films, there's TV shows. I've been playing it since the 90s. I've grew up with Pokemon. I've got my Pikachu plushie right there. He's my favorite plushie. Pokemon Mania since the 90s. It's a game where you collect Pokemon and you train them to battle for you. The more Pokemon you train, the stronger you get. You go on and face the 8 gym leaders, and then eventually to the Elite Four, and then take on the final boss, which is usually like the champion of the whole region. It's kind of a game about culture as well, because every single Pokemon game is set in a different region, and these regions are usually based around real world areas such as America, France, England, Japan. Like, obviously it goes on and on. It's a worldwide game, but it's also so relatable, as everyone likes to collect. I mean, I'm a huge collector here. And one of my favourite things as well was back in the day when we were playing Pokemon as a child, was just sharing and trading Pokemon and showing off what you could do and battling other people that you had with what was the link cable. If anyone knows what a link cable is, it's when you had 2 Game Boys and you had to connect through wire. You didn't have Wi-Fi. Yeah, I guess that was my pick. Pokemon. I love Pokemon. It's legit one of my favourite series of all time. I hope that's good enough. Thank you, Mr. Chicken Fillets, for having me. If this is one of your first Chicken Fillet videos, do check out the rest of his videos because they are awesome. He's a great guy and he is really funny as well. Also, don't forget to check out my channel as well. I am Switchboard Sam. I don't think I actually said that at the start of the video. Switchboard is my channel, so check it out. Also check out the other creators in this video. They are all amazing people as well and have awesome picks, so check them out too. Thank you very much, Chicken Fillets, for letting me be here, and thank you for watching as well. Bye!
Switchboard there with a awesome collection of games. Absolute awesome choice here. Now, I have a Scottish content creator friend up for you next. It's Gib84.
Hello. The RPG of choice that I'm picking is Cyberpunk 2077. The reason I'm picking this is because it's a game that I didn't play at launch, and I know that it was quite divisive at launch. I think it didn't launch very well. My little brother played this at launch. He said he had no problems with it, but I think he's a bit of a liar, to be honest, because I think it was really bad at launch. That's not the reason I didn't play it at launch. It was just because there was just so many stuff out at that time that I was playing otherwise. But this game is really cool. A big, massive open world. to explore, Night City, and then you've got also like the Badlands and Pacifica and Dogtown. Like the whole world is fantastically realised. Big bright neon lights. Got a fantastic photo mode as well. The photo mode is phenomenal, so cool. The thing that I really liked about this, the thing that really stood out to me was all the characters and all the dialogue. It was perfectly done, absolutely brilliant. A little bit overwhelming at the start though, when you had so many different characters and they were all phoning you and sending you messages on your phone, offering you different missions to do and things like that. But once it kind of focused, and once I kind of focused into the story that I was going towards, it was absolutely brilliant. So for my RPG recommendation, it is Cyberpunk 2077. Cheers, fillets.
From one Scottish content creator to another, well, we've got... something's going wrong here. 2 minutes.
Hello, Stuart here, aka GenerationPixel, and if you like videos about Scottish content creators talking about JRPGs that you should play, then you're at the right video, because I'd like to thank John over at Chicken Fillets for inviting me on to tell you one JRPG that you should play. And that game for me, well, it has to be South Park, The Stick of Truth.
Deep in the lands of Zaran, the humans of Koopa Keep struggle to stay alive as they are attacked by the wicked drow elves of Larnia. Darkness falls as the humans beg their king to save them, a noble king known only as the Grand Wizard.
Now, I know and will be the first one to put my hands up and say South Park The Stick of Truth won't be everyone's cup of tea. Firstly, because, well, it's a JRPG, and not only a JRPG but a very traditional Japanese role-playing game. And by that I mean it's got a very well defined story, it uses turn-based mechanics for the combat, and there's an overabundance of having to explore, meet people, chat, find things. You know the drill. If you're watching this video, you're probably a fan of JRPGs anyway. And secondly, of course, it's the subject matter itself. Now, if you're not the type of person who's a fan of the South Park humour, then you're probably not going to get on too well with South Park The Stick of Truth either. For me, however, I absolutely love a bit of toilet humour and pushing those boundaries just a little bit too far over the edge. So trust me when I say I will be checking back on the analytics of this video just to see the percentage of you who have skipped past this particular segment to move on to something a little bit more tame. But if you're still with me at this point and haven't already played South Park The Stick of Truth, then here is why I think you should play this game. Firstly, of course, as I said, it's a traditional JRPG. It has that absolutely captivating turn-based combat, a combat that I first experienced back in the mid-80s, but didn't truly get the experience I wanted from it until 1997 with Final Fantasy VII. And yes, Chicken Fillets, I have managed to squeeze in a reference to Final Fantasy VII. And secondly, the humour is absolutely peak South Park. I know shows like South Park have peaks and troughs where the humour hits and it misses, but the love and attention that was put into The Stick of Truth really shines through. And of course, not just in terms of the South Park humour itself, but also poking fun at video games and video game tropes in particular. Without going into too many spoilers, if there's a video game or at least an RPG style video game that you truly love, then there will be some sort of reference or at least focal point that drags that game that you love into this one. A prime example being the wonderfully rendered 8-bit graphics of the Canadian scene. And if you haven't played this game, at the very least you have to play the Canadian part of South Park The Stick of Truth. Now, I also know that a lot of people will be wondering why I class this game as a JRPG. Obsidian, the game's developers, and of course Ubisoft are neither Japanese companies. But for me, a JRPG is defined simply as this: a role-playing game with a clearly defined character, and in the case of The Stick of Truth, you play as the new kid. who is on the run with his family because of a very unique superpower that he has. Now, I would like to avoid any spoilers here, so I will announce, however, there are two special superpowers that the new kid has, one being related to flatulence, and the other, well, I'll let you discover that for you over the course of the story when you finally get round to playing the Stick of Truth. Second thing being exploration and a world map that you truly do have to explore fully to get the best out of this game. Well, at the very least to get the platinum if you're playing on a PlayStation like the Sony pony that I am did. And thirdly, the combat, and for me a true JRPG should have turn-based combat, or at least a hybrid turn-based combat. I'm not knocking the action JRPGs, I'm just saying that they're not quite as pure as the games released with turn-based combat mechanics. So it's quite clear that South Park The Stick of Truth is a traditional JRPG in every sense, except that it was Western developed and published. And this is not a bad thing, and on a final note, it's a really accessible game to play. Not only is it easy enough to pick up and play for modern consoles, but the gameplay and tutorial levels is absolutely designed for a first time RPG player. For the most part it will take you by the hand if you want it to do so, but if you truly want to get into the nuts and bolts of this game, you really do have to dig deep. So it's a fantastic game for a first time JRPG player, and a very unique experience for the more dedicated JRPG player out there. So I hope I've convinced you into giving South Park The Stick of Truth a chance if you haven't already done so. Of course, drop into the comments and mention how much you liked it too if you did play the game. Once again, I'd like to thank John for inviting me along to contribute in this wonderful Scottish YouTube content creators recommend JRPGs, because one, Scottish content creators are the best and JRPGs are also the best. It's a match made in heaven. Thank you very much, John, and thank you very much John's audience, and back to John.
GenerationPixel there, a Scottish content creator that you should definitely check out. Now, next up we have the Germany's All-Star Premium Star Ocean 5 enthusiast. Yes, it is Luca from feiitogaming, but the question here, has he picked Star Ocean 5? Let's find out.
What's up everyone, I'm Luca from feiitogaming, and one of the best RPGs I've ever played is Chained Echoes. Chained Echoes is an indie RPG developed by one person alone, Matthias Linder. We follow Glenn and his friends on their quest to solve the mystery behind the catastrophe and saving the world. What may sound generic at first evolves into an emotional story with surprising twists and turns, and it's definitely one of the most memorable stories I've ever experienced. The characters are well written and it's so easy to get attached to them. The turn-based combat is actually pretty innovative and easily one of the best turn-based combats you ever see. The overheat gauge determines how much damage you deal and take and how much MP you consume. The actions on the other hand determine in which direction you move on the gauge. So you need to strategize and make good decisions to stay in the green area and get the most advantages. It's a simple system that keeps every encounter engaging and fun. On top of that, you get to fight in super cool mechs that come with a completely different set of combat skills. You can also hop in and fly with them through most of the areas. The OST of Chained Echoes is simply a masterpiece. The composer Eddie Mariano crew created such a diverse and beautiful soundtrack that I can't stop listening to it on Spotify. Chained Echoes is a 10 out of 10 game for me and easily one of the most memorable gaming experiences I've ever had. If you haven't played this amazing RPG, do yourself a favor and change that. Thanks so much for inviting me to this collab, John. It's always a pleasure. Guys, remember to subscribe to Chicken Fillets and then I'll see you over on my channel. Alright, see you guys next time.
feiitogaming there with the absolute belter of a choice, but next up we have amazing friend of the channel, femtrooper. Let's have a look and see what she's saying.
Hey everybody, it's femtrooper, and thank you to Chicken Fillets for having me on today to tell you about an RPG that has no gimmicks, it's just really good, and I want to recommend Star Ocean, The Divine Force. First of all, this was my first Star Ocean game, so yes, you can just jump in here. They're all standalone games, kind of like Final Fantasy, so just pick one, but this one was really good, and yes, the graphics are kind of weird. They look like they have that uncanny valley thing going on, and that's okay. It makes it unique, but Besides that, which is kind of weird, the story's really great, the gameplay's awesome. I just had a fun time, and the biggest thing for me is that this is a JRPG where you go on a huge adventure, and that is my favorite kind of JRPG to play, because I love when you start at a town, you go to a different town, maybe you meet a new party member, maybe you get a new skill, and then you keep going and you kind of just explore this continent or world or whatever it is, and it's sci-fi, so there's space elements. I mean, that's kind of lacking in the JRPG world. There's not tons of sci-fi ones, so definitely check this out. Don't skip on it. I don't really hear it talked about that often. Yes, I see it on people's lists and recommendations. It's not like super underrated, but it's underrated enough that I just feel like, I don't know, people are talking about, you know, second story R. They're not talking about the Divine Force. So it's really good. Don't skip on this. I honestly, sincerely recommend it because I had a fabulous time with it. Thanks again, John, for having me on today. Super pumped to see everybody else's pick, and of course, I hope to see everybody over at my channel.
Femtrooper there, please make sure to check out her channel. Now, we have got a awesome content creator here. If you're into the Trail series JRPGs, well, why not check out our next content creator, TheKisekiNut.
Hello you beautiful people, and thanks to my man Chicken Fillets for letting me be a part of this awesome collab once again. So awesome JRPGs, no bells, no whistles. Well, there's plenty out there, no question, but I'm going to go for one that probably has been forgotten by many. That will be Harvestella, a game that I was inspired to play because of the man Chicken Fillets himself. This is a weird one for me because Harvestella is just a strange game all said and done. It doesn't excel at anything really, individually at least. In some cases even, it's not even great, like its combat, which is more derivative of earlier MMOs like EverQuest than a slick action RPG. But despite all the flaws, despite its shortcomings in many respects, I was so on board with this game. I put far more hours into it than I ever thought I would. It's hard to describe, but when I played the game and it all combined together, the whole became so much more than the sum of its parts, especially when you add in its beautiful OST and art style. It fuses into such a pleasing and satisfying experience, and I'd say the biggest strength of Harvestella is that it strikes a very good balance between the farming aspect and the story, but most importantly leaves that choice up to the player. Player choice, player freedom, and how they go about their days is what makes Harvestella so fun, and indeed, so relaxing. It ensures that no single day is stale. If I want to farm, I can farm. If I want to do the story, I can do the story. If I want to do side quests, you get the idea. And there's just so much meat in each area, so much to do in the game that I'm not surprised that my playtime ballooned up to 50 hours without mine realising. And I'm sure completionists could go well into the triple digits with all the hidden goodies to find. I was pleasantly surprised with it. I did not expect that I would enjoy Harvestella as much as I did, and I hope that, though it's a pipe dream, we might get some form of revisit to this franchise in the future, whenever that may be.
TheKisekiNut there with Harvestella. Now, if you know me, I love a bit of Harvestella. Now, next up we have a friend of the channel who's been a great supporter, Spare Hombres.
Hello everyone, this is Spare Hombres, and today's special. I'm doing a collab with Chicken Fillet. Thank you for that, John. I really appreciate it. So you want to know awesome RPG you guys should play? For me, well, there are so many choices to pick, but I will say Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Why? Well, first of all, because there is dragon. Well, they look more like wyvern, but that's a story for another time. The game called it dragon, so we call them dragon. Okay. But beside that, what I like about that game a lot is the fact that you can do whatever you want. Whatever the skill, the weapon, or the spell that you use, that's the one that will level up. And so you can become very a specific type of character. You can do a bit of everything. That's what I like about it. I like freedom. And also the world so big. I love to explore it. It's very interesting with all the things that you can see, collect, plant, bug, beat some beasts and everything, explore cave and everything. Talk to ton of NPC, discover a ton of quests to do for them, join guild from warrior, mage, thief, and even assassin. It's so much fun to look it up and to discover everything. I don't think even in my 3 run I did so far. Yes, I played that game 3 times. The first time I was playing it on the PlayStation 3. And with the long loading time, and I even managed to do the Platinum trophy for it, just to tell you how much I like it. But still, even after my 3 run, I'm sure there's some cave and place that I didn't discover. And what I found interesting, every dungeon is different. I didn't see one that is the same. That's so much interesting to see. So that's why, for me, you should play Skyrim. And remember to have fun and to create some great gaming memories.
Taking an arrow to the knee for us all, Skyrim. What a choice, although it's a game that I've not actually played, so I'm going to have to take that recommendation. And next up we have returning friend to the channel. Yes, it's the one, the only, ColinLack.
Thanks for having me on yet again, Chicken Fillets. For this video, it was a no-brainer pick for me. It had to be Tokyo Xanadu because that game is absolutely lit, as the young ones would say. Pray that's the last time you ever hear this old curmudgeon using the term lit. Even I'm cringing right now. But the game, despite having a lot of anime tropes, is far from cringe. So let's get into why you need to play this amazing JRPG. So I'd argue Tokyo Xanadu, despite being the ignored red-headed stepchild of the Falcom family, has actually informed a lot of their design decisions going forward into their more recent games, especially the Trails ones. The combat, despite being action-centric, is much slower than the gameplay found in the East titles. Tokyo Xanadu is also much more in line with the Trails games because it focuses so heavily on lore, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing expanded come Tokyo Xanadu New Project, which was announced a while back but has yet to have a release date. We know Trails in the Sky, the first remake, is coming out next year, and yes, it will be available on all platforms at launch. If you want more details as to why, I should have a video up on my own channel about the subject soon, if it hasn't already been out by the time this one is released. Anyways, back to Xanadu. A lot of the appeal of this game comes down to the fact it's Falcom at their most experimental in the modern era, whilst also being somewhat of a melting pot for ideas found in East games and Trails ones, making for pretty much the ultimate middle ground. Even though Daybreak was the game where hybrid combat became a thing in their entries, I feel like they probably wanted Xanadu to be like that given its slower pace to combat, and the fact you can see more of the Trails DNA here than you can of the East DNA. Also, another thing I adore about this game is just how addicting the dungeon crawling aspects are. They actually time you and grade your performance. I think that's pretty cool. And it has a design philosophy I just love in games, the whole can you optimize yourself a little bit better and improve incrementally. That's actually a good reason why I love fighting games, as they have the easy to pick up and play but hard to master gameplay loop that I love. But have you played Tokyo Xanadu? If so, let myself and Chicken Fillets know in the comments. Thanks again for having me on, man. I can't wait to see the entries from the other creators. Until next time, keep blazing that trail.
ColinLack there making their return to his channel, but we've got someone making their debut on the Chicken Fillets collaborations. It is John Bundy.
Thank you for that introduction, John. As soon as you asked me to take part in this collaboration, I thought I really should put the effort in, so I've come to Scotland. And why am I filming in the car? Because trying to find time when the family are around is difficult, and they're currently on a farm riding a tractor. So, here we are. So, an RPG that I think you should play, and it doesn't matter about gimmicks or anything. So, there are 3 that came to mind originally, games that I feel that everyone should play at least once in their lives. And why did I pick this one over the other 2? So, the reason being is the fact that you can actually buy a version of this game currently. Just so you're aware, the first 2 games were Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is currently still a Saturn exclusive, so there's no way to buy this unless if you pick it up second hand or emulation. Or the second game is Skies of Arcadia. Now, that was a Dreamcast original, but was then ported to GameCube, but there is no current remake, remaster, re-release of the game. So the game that I'm going with is Luna, the Silver Star. Now, a lot of people probably haven't heard of this series, unless if you live in America or Japan, because it was never released in the PAL territories until later on. So, Luna the Silver Star is the first of the Luna series, which got a proper sequel called Eternal Blue, and then there were a couple of spin-offs, which were never released outside of Japan but have received fan translations. This game originally started on the Mega CD, or Sega CD. So, but because it never got a PAL release, we never heard about it over here. The game was then remade for the PlayStation, again never released in PAL, then for the Game Boy Advance, never released in PAL, and finally for the PSP, which was released in PAL. But I said you could also pick this game up now. You can, because you can buy it off of either the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. So currently it's just available via, say, touch color screen interfaces. There's the hope that it will actually get a modern re-release on modern consoles, but I believe there might be some kind of licensing issue. But here's hoping. But if you do want to play it, you can do. So what is Luna? Luna is set in a fantasy world where you play as Alex, a boy who grows up dreaming of becoming a Dragon Master. See, the previous Dragon Master, called Dine, has his grave in the town that you grew up in. And so you've always dreamed of becoming a fierce warrior. So then you, your school friend, childhood friend, and also your another childhood friend / kind of, sweetheart, decide to explore a dragon cave nearby. And you meet the white dragon who sees potential in you, gives you a ring, and says, go explore the world a bit and come back. And that sets you off on an adventure. But the reason why I think that people should play this is because of the fact that I've only played the Mega CD version, but when you look at it as a 16-bit RPG for the time, it's absolutely fantastic. It uses the CD technology to give you animated cutscenes, voice acting, and also CD quality audio as well. But also, it's not just a simple turn-based system. The battles are turn-based, but there is also a battle kind of map, battle area. So it's not that, it's not an RTS where you have to pick where to go. Your characters will move automatically, but if you want to attack someone, you have to be close enough to hit them unless if you have a ranged weapon. So there's a bit of strategy involved, but I think the story itself is also great as well. And I think it's a game that should definitely be checked out. If you can, like I say, you can pick it up for mobile devices, and hopefully you'll get a console release at some point in the future. Okay. Thanks for including me. Take care. Bye.
John Bundy there with an absolute belter of a RPG. Now make sure to give him a follow. Now next up we have Milla from millasgameroom. Absolute fantastic content creator. Let's have a look and see what she's saying.
Hi, I'm Milla over from millasgameroom, and thank you to John for inviting me onto his channel again for this collaboration. Today I'm going to talk about one game which I like, and I wanted to pick something kind of mainstream but also kind of obscure and not too modern, and I decided to pick what I consider to be the best game in the Tales of series and one of the best RPGs of the PS2 generation, Tales of the Abyss. So what is Tales of the Abyss? This is a game where you play as Luc von Fabra. He's a guy who, following a kidnapping 7 years prior to the events of the game's story, he is basically confined to his castle and lives a very sheltered existence. As a result, he becomes a bit of an unlikable character at first. Events happen and he gets thrust into the real world alongside Tia, a woman who breaks into the castle one day. Adventure that begins from there. Luke, as a result, has a really unique character arc which really cemented Abyss's appeal to me. He starts off as a unpleasant person, but grows to become a dependable, loyal, reliable protagonist. And it's interesting seeing his dynamics alongside the rest of the cast, including Tia. The characters are great, the overall story of the world is fantastic, and you really get to see how the consequences of somebody's actions are explored in a way that you rarely see in a lot of RPGs. Like, Luke's actions in the early portion of the game directly contribute to a lot of the problems later on, and it's really interesting seeing how he comes to terms with this and embraces it. Outside of that, the gameplay is really cool. The battle system is typical Tales action RPG flair. It's so fun, it's so fast paced, it holds up really well. I played this the first time on the 3DS. The 3DS version is the only version that officially came to Europe. We don't have an official release of the PS2 version here, nor an HD remaster. However, there is recently fan mods that not only undub the game, but also fully roll out the gameplay. The gameplay itself has been unofficially enhanced by fans, effectively meaning an HD remaster does exist if you have the means to emulate, and I want to try that at some point, because Tales of the Abyss, for me, feels like a title that is fantastic on 3DS, but even better on home consoles. It's a great game, I love it, you should play it. It aged really well, it's still one of the best titles in the Tales of series. Even if you've not played many titles, this is a title that fans say that you should play, and myself included, even though I've yet to play the other two Holy Grail titles, but let's not worry about that for now, shall we? Anyway, thank you so much to John for inviting me on his channel today, and go check him out, go check out all the other cool creators in this list. Thank you so much, bye bye.
Milla there with the absolute fantastic choice. Now next up we have another debut on the Chicken Fillets channel. It's Shinky JRPGs.
Hey y'all, Shinky JRPGs here, and thanks so much John, aka Chicken Fillets, aka Scottish Champion of JRPGs, for having me on to take part in such a great video. No gimmicks and RPGs you should just play? RPGs you should just play. Well, this is a no-brainer. Bravely Default for the 3DS. Don't ask me why, you just need to play it. Okay, fine. You wanna know why? You wanna know why it's one of the best RPGs to ever grace this green earth? Well, ring a bell. Ring a Bell is beautiful. Ring a Bell is seductive. Ring a Bell is... he's just the coolest minstrel you'll ever meet. Okay, but seriously, Bravely Default is one of those games that just hits every target perfectly and amounts to a great experience. First of all, turn-based RPG. Oh yes. Job system? Definitely. Music? Possibly some of the best. And plot twists that you won't see coming? You know it. Honestly, Bravely Default is one of those games that I can talk about forever. Every character is just so dynamic and out there. They mesh with one another so well, and even the annoying characters will have a special place in your heart. And that job system is probably one of the most robust job systems I have ever experienced in any JRPG, allowing for so many broken combinations. And with its insane level of customization options, no playthrough will ever be the same. However, the number one reason why I feel you should just play Bravely Default? That soundtrack. Bravely Default easily has one of the best soundtracks of all time. Revo went above and beyond with this game, and it just amplifies the entire experience. The game isn't perfect though. If you've heard anything about Bravely Default, you've probably heard of the last half of the game and how it's incredibly repetitive. And if you haven't heard about it, I won't spoil it, but it comes alongside one of the most insane plot twists of any game I've ever played. So it all makes sense in the end. See? I told you! I could talk about Bravely Default forever! And that's why I feel Bravely Default is just a game you should play, so I'll cut it short here. Anyways, this has been Shinky of Shinky JRPGs. Thanks so much for having me on, John, and as always, have a wonderful day.
Shinky JRPGs there with a class choice. Now, next up we have our friend from down under. It's uppernimbus.
What's going on guys, uppernimbus here. So when John had asked me what's a no gimmick JRPG that I love and I think is absolutely awesome, to no surprise, it is once again Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. So realistically, why did I choose Xenoblade Chronicles yet again? I know, this is like the 10th time I've talked about this JRPG. It is because, in fact, I believe the original Xenoblade and also Definitive Edition is just an absolutely awesome JRPG. There's no gimmicks that I want to talk about with this game. It's simply the fact that it is just utterly fantastic. This is honestly one of the best JRPG experiences I've ever had. It is a grand, epic adventure. The world is set on the backs of these two giant titans that are locked in battle. And basically what you're doing is you're exploring the remains of these titans. The way that you traverse the world in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is so awesome. You start at the foot of the Bionis, literally at the foot of it. And the whole adventure is this epic revenge story where Shulk is trying to get revenge on the Mechon, which are the opposing faction that live on Mechonis. You can see Mechonis all the way in the horizon, dozens of kilometers away. This world is completely gigantic and absolutely stellar to explore. I am someone of the firm belief that JRPGs really benefit from an amazing story, something which draws you in and you're hooked from the get-go, wanting to know all of the mysteries of the world, the different character backstories, and finding answers to the questions that linger over your head. I love the mystery and intrigue with JRPGs, and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition does it spectacularly. And that means something. That means a lot, to feel heavy emotions and a deep connection with the game that you're playing. So that's right, no gimmicks attached. I highly recommend Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. It is one of the best JRPGs ever made, and if you haven't played it yet, well, get it played, man. John, thank you so much for inviting me to this collaboration of yours. You know how much I love doing collaborations, and I always appreciate it when you have me on board with your videos. And as always, I look forward to everybody else's choice within this video. So until the next time, everybody, uppernimbus is signing off.
uppernimbus there with Xenoblade for the 10th billionth time, but we never get old of uppernimbus and his antics. Now next up is, well, HULLO! So yes, it's my choice now. Now, I'm going to do this in a one-shot, one-take format because I like doing these sort of things. So if there's spoilers, if there's mistakes, well, they're going to be here. Now, I've not really picked a game yet, but as you can see from my game room, I have plenty to choose from. So, let's have a look. We've got PlayStation 4, PS5, Switch games, but there's one game I've just looked at which I'm definitely going to recommend to you. It is currently standing as 2024's Game of the Year, in my opinion, and no shock to anyone that it's going to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the second entry in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, and my god, what a follow-up to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'll let you in a little secret. It's one of my favourite JRPGs that was released on the PlayStation 4. I've replayed it so many times. I have it now on the Steam Deck. Now, getting this my hands on this game, being able to go across the world of Gaia, wow, absolutely amazing. Now, Final Fantasy VII in general is my all-time favourite JRPG, but what this game does right here is it brings what my memories of growing up with Final Fantasy VII to full life. You're able to explore the world of Gaia, go to the places like Junon Harbour, wow, go to the likes of Costa del Sol, and go to the likes of Nibelheim, and even they've expanded the likes of Gongaga. Insert your Gongaga, me Gongaga meme right here.
Me? Gongaga.
But yes, this has been absolutely fantastic. Even with some of these story beat changes, it made sense in my eyes. But one thing I really want to point out, and I pointed this out in one of my previous videos, the soundtrack for Final Fantasy VII Remake is sublime. They have taken classic JRPG soundtrack from the original and just amplified it so much by giving it full orchestral scores, and then even adding on brand new original tracks, whether it's be rocky songs, poppy songs, just everything from there and in between. It's just amazing. Now, if you've not got your hands on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I'd highly recommend it. Absolutely, and I really want this to go onto Steam Deck so I can play this portably. I think we all do at this point if you're a PC owner. So anyway, thank you to everyone who collaborated with myself today. They are all awesome content creators which deserve your subscription, so please make sure to click on their channels down in the description below and get following them. Now, if you like what you're hearing and seeing on this channel, well, please help me grow it by liking, sharing and subscribing. And if you want to be kept up to date with everything Chicken Fillets, you know what to do. Hit that notification bell. This has been John, aka Chicken Fillets, and until next time, chatty bye.